So those people that you observe and you admire them, it could be a public speaker, it could be someone, when they begin speaking, you always get attracted to what they're saying. It could be someone who just looks so easy with the life, they don't look troubled. Sometimes it's because of the invisible things that they do, that they are visibly admirable. When we look at scripture, there would be characters in the Bible that we would be admirable. And a number of them, the things that we look at them and admire, it's because of the things that they did behind the scenes that made them to be the kind of people that they were. For those of you who watch the TV or on social media, sometimes you would get to see short clips that are flawless. Everything seems to just fall in place. The people are talking, the graphics and everything. What you need to know is that there's usually limitless number of hours behind that work. There are many people who are involved in repeating the same words over and over again until they got it right. They don't just wake up one morning and the cameras are set and they are told 1, 2, 3 and the advert is ready. Similarly, those things that, as I have mentioned, that you see and admire on people, there are many things that are done behind the scenes. Daniel, anytime Daniel is mentioned, we get a mental picture of Daniel in the lion's den. And we all want to be like Daniel. We want that power, the power that shuts the mouths of lions. You want to be the kind of a person that is not afraid of lions. If you belong to Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, you wish you can have that power which can just nullify the results for the previously held elections without, you want to just make the Supreme Court make a decision that cannot be thwarted by anyone else, or you want the election results to be held. That is the kind of power that everyone wants to have. But we ask ourselves, what is it that made Daniel to be favored by God that much? What is it that made Daniel not to be worried about being thrown in the den of lions? We would get some of the answers into Daniel's lifestyle. We're introduced to Daniel's life in Daniel chapter 1 as a man who had resolved to just live on terere and spinach at the face of plenty and the delicacies of the palace. We are not told why Daniel necessarily chose and his friends chose to live on vegetables, but we do know that it was an act of self-sacrifice and self-denial. Therefore, when a declaration is made that there's going to be a break of 30 days, people praying only to the king and not to God, Daniel is not moved. Daniel wakes up every day, goes to the same venue, at the same time, in the same posture, and prays 3 times in a day, regardless of the threat that had been issued by the king. There must have been something that triggered Daniel to be able to do such a thing at such a threat. He was not moved, he was not afraid. Prayer had become part and parcel of Daniel's life, that not even that threat would change his posture. If I was Daniel, I would have tried to pray still the 3 days, but I would have not gone to the same venue. Or probably, I would have not knelt facing Jerusalem. I would have pretended that I am still in the business of the king, praying in my heart, like many of us usually do. But Daniel's discipline was that it didn't change anything. Nothing changed. The early church, as we see it in the four Gospels, it was a church that was characterized by disciplines such as fellowship, prayer and fasting, taking communion. And we see great impact from that kind of discipline that they had adopted. We see conversions. We see the church growing. We see people like Stephen, who is not afraid of being stoned. We see people like Peter, who are saying, choose it for yourself, whether we need to obey you or we need to obey our God. Even when they are flogged, they tell this, we cannot help but speak about Christ. But the Bible is keen on recording the kind of disciplines that they had been undertaking. Some people say that disciplines is an unnecessary legalistic way of life. And there are reasons to say so. One, I think when disciplines are considered to be a legalistic way of life, it's when they are mistaken to be activities that are done on a routine without any goal or objective. If you are reading through the Bible every day, is for you to be added on a Telegram group of people who read the Bible every morning, then yours is not a discipline. It is just a routine, it's just an activity. If your prayer life is for you to gain substance, to share with people, to show off how you pray, then that is where you miss it. But if you are consistent reading of the Bible and praying, its objective is to meet God and to be transformed, then you cannot talk about that discipline as a legalistic way of life. So when we get ourselves into routine of activities that we do not know or they are an end in themselves, then that is not a discipline. It's not a discipline. They're just activities that you've learned how to do. And so this morning, I want to actually bring a theoretical shift from disciplines of a Christian worker into what I am referring to as a disciplined worker, a disciplined Christian worker. One whose disciplines are integrated in their lives as opposed to compartmentalized disciplines that are fragmented. They are not joined together. But I want to present a life that is disciplined in a way that all the things that you do them as a unit. They are part and parcel of your life. They are not just activities that are disjointed, that you perform in one time or the other, but they have no goal in themselves. So I have shared about Daniel and the early church. But I want to give a few examples of people who lived in our contemporary society. And one of the people that I want to share about is John Wesley. John Wesley is the founder of the Methodist Church. I don't know many of you here who are members of the Methodist Church. I only know Priscilla Itale. John Wesley is the founder of the Methodist Church. He's one of those people, when you read his biography, you realize his life was characterized by discipline. As the church name goes, Methodist, it's actually a church that was founded on methods. They had procedures of doing things. But John Wesley, in his university days at Oxford University, he led a club that was called the Holy Club. And they had committed themselves into prayer, daily reading of scripture, and frequently visiting the prisons. when he was a student, he shares how he met some Moravian missionaries, and his life was challenged. He felt like he was not a believer. He shares of a story when they were in a ship, and there was turmoil, and the Moravian missionaries seemed so cool with it that he wondered what is it that they had that himself he didn't have. And he began questioning his spirituality. And it's in 1738 that he says his real conversion came into his life. He achieved so much that by the time he was dying, he had a congregation of close to, I think, 10 million. Today, Methodist is one of the biggest churches that we have in the world. But his success is actually can be attributed to the things that he did behind the scenes. One of his disciplines was prayer. He said that Wesley began the day with a word of prayer, but he always prayed at the beginning of every hour during the day. He actually moved from praying for 4 hours in a day to 8 hours by the time he was dying. He would fast sometimes twice in a week, but his consistency is what marvels me, because in his writings, sometimes he wrote a letter to one of the pastors, John Temther, and he told him that whether you like it or not, you must pray and read daily, else you become a trivialer all your days in life, or you'll become also a superficial preacher. He wrote so many prayer books that are used in the church today. Concerning giving, one of the other disciplines that he had developed in his life was giving. And it is said that by the time he was dying, he had graduated from just giving tithe to 80% of his wealth. He decided that he was going to live on the 28 pounds that he had lived on when he was a student. So anytime he got an increment on his income, he decided to give it to the poor. He built orphanage where people in need would be taken care of. He lived a life of simplicity that enabled him to give almost all that he had. John Stott is a man that you might know, or some of you may have heard about. I'm sure you're going to read one of his books because it's a mandatory read for STEM. John Stott is probably the most influential evangelical Christian in England, and maybe we could say in the world. He wrote over 50 books. He wrote over 50 books in different languages. At one point, he was appointed the chaplain to Queen Elizabeth. And in the evangelical circles, when you mention John Stott, it's a name to reckon with. John Stott is considered to have been a disciplined man. When you read his books or you listen to his sermons, you cannot help but see the way he is so meticulous in the way he presents the truth. But behind it, you want to read his biography and see the kind of pain that he took into making some of those presentations and the disciplines that he built in his life over time. On prayer, John Stott, he said his normal day routine started at 5 a.m. according to what he shares. And he would begin by a word of prayer. His prayer was interesting because they say that he used to begin by greeting each of the members of the Trinity. Maybe he was saying, "Hi, Jesus, praise the Lord, God," or "Good morning, Jesus." And then he would follow by reciting the Romans chapter 12, verse 1, presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. And then he would move on for the next 1 hour to washing his clothes while listening to the news on the radio. Then after that, he would get into Bible study. And his life, in his adult life, he says he used the Murray's Bible reading pattern, which presents 4 chapters a day, 3 chapters in the morning and 1 chapter in the evening. And it said that every day he used that particular plan to do his personal devotion. He would then follow it with intercession, which he used to, he had a leather notebook, which he listed down prayer items from different people and different organizations, and he would use that particular book to pray for the world. His study, he was so serious about his study that he never wanted anyone to interrupt him when he begins to study. He had a sequence of keeping his notes. Before computer softwares were introduced, he used index cards to keep his notes in a way that he always would know which particular notes that he would want to go for a particular book when he wants to write a particular book. There are other disciplines about, he shares, at the age of 29 years, he became the rector of All Souls. All Souls is one of the most beautiful churches that we have in the world. He became a rector of that church. And it's at that time, he says he came close to a nervous breakdown. But then, it's during that time, he says he met or he listened to one of the pastors encouraging, I think he was a principal of one of the theological colleges, encouraging pastors to be taking a time off once in a month to go and pray or relax. So at that time, he decided to adopt that particular discipline. So he scheduled his Q day, which used to be one of the days in the month. And one of the interesting things is that as time went by, as life became busier, as his ministry increased, he also increased the frequency of the Q day. It moved from monthly to bi-weekly, to the point now he was doing it on a weekly basis. Every single Thursday, he drove to a town or in London, where he would stay for the whole day, being hosted by two people who are his friends. And it said that he maintained that particular discipline throughout the rest of his life. At one point, he was asked whether he had ever gotten discouraged to the point of feeling like giving up in ministry. And he said, pastors are often discouraged and always feeling like quitting ministry because of the pressure of ministry. But he adds and says he had never been tempted to the level of feeling like he wanted to quit because he had taken precautions. He continues to say that he knew that human bodies or humans are psychosomatic creatures, that whatever is happening on their physical bodies influences what is happening in their spiritual lives. And because of that, he decided to always run a disciplined life, which had balance on diet, the kind of food that he was taking rest, and regular exercises. But he says the Q day and the disciplines of running a balanced life is what saved his life and his ministry. Nicholas Herman is one of those people who are not known by many people. And it's because of the kind of lifestyle that he chose. Born in I think in the 17th century. He participated in the wars that were taking place during those years and sustained a critical injury on his nerves that left him crippled and full of pain the rest of his life. But one of the most significant things about Nicholas Herman is that he learned how to meditate upon the Word of God, that he ran an uninterrupted, continuous walk in the presence of God through meditation. He got a job as a cook. That is the best job that he did in life. But he decided that he was going to take joy in his cooking, that he always wanted to walk in the presence of God. When you read his biography as recorded in a book that is called Practicing the Presence of God, you see the kind of things that he was always talking about, his joy in working with the Lord, the joy he's finding in cooking, the experiences that he had with sufrias, and the thinking about God at every given moment. His discipline was about meditating upon the greatness of God. I don't have time to talk to you about people like George Mueller, Hudson Taylor, Festo Kiverenge, people who cultivated disciplines that were not interrupted by the business that they had of their ministry. And it is through those uninterrupted disciplines that they were able to achieve so much. If we go back to the story of Daniel, for Daniel, it was not just about eating vegetables and praying 3 times in a day. Daniel was so diligent at his work that you remember when the other administrators were trying to find any fault in his undertakings in the palace, they could not find anything to pin him down. What makes Christian workers today useless? It is because all they do is just to eat the vegetables, to pray 3 times in a day. But when it comes to diligence at work, it is like water and oil. They never mix. They are mutually exclusive. You fast, yes, we agree, you fast, you pray for 3 hours, but you cannot deliver because your disciplines are separate from your life. And that is why I'm saying I am presenting a disciplined Christian worker. So that when you're talking about excellence, it's not about excellence in your praying. It is also excellence in the way you meet your students. Your excellence is not just about reading the Bible throughout the year. It is also about your taking of responsibilities that have been given to you as a STEM staff. So all these disciplines should be integrated in your life so that we can see hard work in your devotional life, but we also see hard work in the responsibilities that have been assigned to you. And when you begin practicing those things, remember we said discipline is basically a pattern, an orderly pattern of behavior. It is a control that is gained by enforcing obedience. So that you cannot say that you can't help it but just scroll on Instagram for 5 hours. It is lack of discipline. Because discipline, you need to enforce some level of obedience and say, it is now time for me to prepare for best P. And you stop everything else that you're doing to prepare for best P. That's a discipline. You can't say, for me, I can't just help. I find myself just eating a lot. I try, but I just find myself eating a lot. You must enforce discipline. You must enforce obedience.
So when you're talking about an integrated discipline, we are talking about habits, patterns of your behavior that are put in a way that they begin to influence the kind of a person that you are. There are many people, there are other people that we can take examples from. People who have lived disciplined lives in our contemporary society. But I don't have permission to talk about some that I would wish to talk about. But I can share a few things about myself. I have not written 50 books. I have not initiated a church. I don't live on vegetables alone. But there are a few things. There are a few things that I can say that I have attempted. But one of the things that I can say is that I have not given up on the disciplines that I say that I have failed. But I have not given up. Because as I will be presenting to us towards the end on how we cultivate or how we become disciplined Christian workers, is that you need to attempt. I normally say you repeat something twice again for the second time. You keep on doing it. You fail, do it again, fail, do it again, until it becomes part and parcel of you. When I think about my personal devotion, I have cultivated routines and habits that I have seen from other people's experiences. And some of those, the people that I've shared about is because I've read about their biographies, and most of the things that, much of my reading is usually about biographies, reading about people, especially ministry workers, and try to see what kind of disciplines do they inculcate in their lives. So I learned that for you to be effective in your personal devotion, you first of all need to set time, you need to set a venue, and you need to make it as consistent as you can. And I have tried that. Of course, life dynamics keep on changing. When I was a single person, it's not the same way as it is today. That my venue has to change. I used to just wake up. Those days, you see, the house, the sitting room, the bedroom, the kitchen, they were all in the same place. It was just a matter of changing direction or orientation to get into the next room. And so when you wake up, you decide, now I am in my study room. So as dynamics change, you can get another room, but also you get more people in that house that may not necessarily give you the peace. But I have learned that if you make it consistent, if you do not have a place where you go and sit to do your personal devotion, not to be consistent. But I also learned that for my personal devotion to be effective, I have to take notes. I have to take notes of what I am seeing, my reflections. I have a collection. I have not read the Bible as many times as I would have wished to. As we speak, I have not completed my cycle that I started in 2020. I'm hoping that I can be able to complete it this year. But at least I have some Bible notes that I have put together every time as I go through the cycle. And those notes are not just they are reflections of what God is telling me. I would always have 3 columns of my Bible notes. As I like most of my presentations, for those who don't know me, I like working with tables. I have a table of what I am observing, what I am hearing. Then I have another table of the things that I wish I want to do or I'm hearing God prompting me to do. And another column of prayers that I'm making in relation to what God is speaking to me. And sometimes I check those notes and I see God every other time when I was consistent with that behavior of setting apart time, venue, and a way of taking notes. God has always spoken to me in vivid ways. For you to be an effective Christian worker, you must be disciplined on how you listen to God. If you are not going to be a disciplined worker who sets time to listen to God, No matter how much perfection you achieve in other disciplines, you are going to be a useless worker. I've realized today I'm talking like Kibaki. You're going to be useless because all you're doing is likely to be for show off, but not for your personal edification and walk with God. So you must listen. You must listen to what God wants to speak to your students. You can't just be consuming content. All the answers that you have for the questions your students are asking are influenced by short notes here from social media. It cannot be. You cannot be an effective Christian worker who does not listen to the God of those students. You must know what God intends to speak to those students. And so you have to set apart on daily basis. You must listen to God on daily basis to know what is it that God wants me to say, to do. So the focus app, the person, there are many features in that focus app, but one of the features there is a Bible reading plan. The person who conceptualized that reading plan must have been someone who was struggling with consistent Bible reading. But the idea is that it can give you a platform where you can actually have scheduled time. You have a notepad where you can take your notes on that particular app. But the most important thing was that it gives you an opportunity to pick up from where you left. Meaning that you cannot give up. You see, if some Bible plans are usually indicated, they're given dates of the year. So if you are supposed to read today, 28th, if you don't read it, tomorrow on 29th, you feel discouraged for going back to reading stuff that was meant for 28th. But we don't have dates on that app. And the idea was that we know for you to gain discipline, you will fail. You will start and fail. But you don't stop at the failure. You rise again and pick up from where you stopped. That is why I'm still using that app for a cycle that I started in 2020. But I mean, it is a reminder that I am behind my schedule. There are things that God needed to speak to me last year, and I have not had opportunity to hear what he wanted to say. It's a constant reminder, but it helps me to still keep that time. There's going to be, after this, you're going to talk about reading, and you're going to talk about journaling in the evening. Those are some of the skills and things I had for the first time in my STEM. Actually, I read my first book, the first book to read from cover to the end. I read it in STEM. Don't laugh at me because you need to. We need to meet after 10 years and know how many books you have read now that you have read more books before you joined STEM. But it is during STEM that I realized that it's actually a skill that I can grow. And I set time. Again, I learned the habit of taking notes as I read the book. Some of the notes that I take is what I used to prepare for today's presentation. Because there are things that I read, reflected, and took note. I have a number of book reviews for my personal consumption. I have built a small library, and I'm able to track the books that I have read. STEM, I can say, is actually a set of activities that are supposed to help you to become a disciplined worker. Most of the activities are laid for you. It's about you now to indulge in them. So STEM gives you a lifetime opportunity to build on some of these disciplines. One of the disciplines that I struggle with is prayer and fasting. But Focus has continued to help me. You know, every month we have a day to pray and fast. In January, unless things change, you're going to have a week or 2 weeks to pray and fast. There are people who have perfected that discipline, and they actually wonder, how can we do 2 weeks? A whole movement under the International Fellowship of Christian Evangelical Students. How can we just pray for one? Because you can pray for over a month. But for some of us who are strugglers, Focus is giving us an opportunity to build that discipline of prayer and fasting. But then we need to begin to learn how to move beyond the scheduled prayer and fastings by focus. And it is by understanding and appreciating why we are undertaking these kinds of disciplines. One of the other disciplines that I have tried to cultivate in my life is hard work. I have always known that, and I've realized hard work always pays off. So whatever activity, whatever responsibility is placed on my hands, I always try to do as much as I can. I try to do my best to ensure that I have done all that I could do with that particular responsibility. Not unless I have been invited on a short notice. I do not warm notes. I prepare afresh. I take time to think, to conceptualize, to devise new ways of solving the same problem. Because you are likely to be invited to speak about the same topic over and over again. When students get to know, people just invite me to talk about communications. You people must be among the secretaries who asked me to come to speak in your CU about communicating the gospel, because you've just known that the only thing I do is communications. But it's okay. I have no problem with that. But I ensure, whether I was speaking in your E or I was speaking in another Christian union, I take time to think through. I take time to conceptualize, to think about new solutions. And if you do not do that, and you are a ministry worker, you're going to be a boring speaker. You're going to be a boring speaker because you're going to be repeating the same notes. People would be wondering, are we last year or are we today? Because they had to speak the same thing, same way, same examples, same. So take time, hard work, working so hard for God because you love Him. It's not because you want to show off. It is because you want to be impactful. So just deciding that you're going to be hardworking, it's a discipline for a Christian ministry worker. Working hard. If you do not work hard, you're going to be a mediocre. No one is going to want to listen to you. You're not going to have anything to offer. So you must learn how to work hard if you're to be an impactful ministry worker. I learned from John Stott, of course, the habit of listing down names of the people that you want to pray for. And in my normal conversations with people, I pick prayer items and I note them down. And when I have time to pray, I'm able to pray for specific individuals in certain ways. And sometimes it even helps me, it influences me how I give. Sometimes I could be listening to someone and I can tell there's a problem, I would pray for them. But it also sometimes it triggers me into being a solution to that particular problem. So some of those are habits that I've had people, because those are not my inventions. I just read and I saw, oh, okay, this looks interesting. And I decided this is what I'm going to be doing. Diligence at work. One of the days, I think it should be 2012, we had a meeting for the CMFs, and one of the speakers, Reverend Dr. Karita Bagara, was speaking to us, and he shared how shameful it was for a focus staff to show up for student meetings late. He said it not only impairs the image of focus, but it also reduces your authority on those students. And since that time, I decided that if I was going to meet students, whether it is a CU leader, whether it's an exec meeting, I would be there on time. I have tried to do that. It is not always successful. But anytime I have a meeting with students, I have tried to be there on time. Sometimes you may think that you are okay because students will always excuse you. They say, oh yeah, we know you are a really busy person. Every other time, yeah, we know you're a busy person. But you are not a busy person. You are just an indisciplined time manager. So you must, these are things that you have to resolve and decide this is going to be my discipline. I'll be known to be a good timekeeper. We are already in this program 15 minutes late because we have not kept time. And it's for everyone, for all of us, the program managers, everyone. If we get the discipline of time management, there's so much that we can be able to achieve. So don't feel nice when students excuse you for your indisciplines. And you realize that these things, when you resolve, you can actually manage to do that. I also decided that every time I go to meet students, I will take time to prepare. Well, I think one of the things that I know about myself is that I don't look what I am in many ways. That we can be talking, laughing about other things, but there are things that I know I do. And I make them private because I think they actually make me to be who I am in the public. There are many things that I may not even be able to share, but there are resolves that I see, they help me as a person, as a Christian ministry worker. I decided that I will have to prepare. If I'm going to meet a student on a particular issue, sometimes I was just checking my computer and I have notes about students that I was meeting. Just deciding this is what I'm going to talk about with this particular student. Maybe these are issues that we're going to discuss. I conceptualize them. So when I get into that meeting, I do not waste the time for that student. They live in that place feeling impacted. So don't just be a freelancer. Yes, you'll have opportunities where you meet with students impromptu. But if you set an opportunity, if you invited exec to come into your house, they will come and eat, yes. But at the back of your mind, there must be a few things that you want to do. You don't have to say them upfront. You actually plan how they are going to play out. As you discuss, as you play, as you cook, there are certain things that you want them. For example, you may want them to leave that place knowing that it is important to plan their schedules well. Think through how that is going to play out in your conversations so that it's so natural, but it is intentional. So intentionality, being intentional. I'm saying I don't want to project these disciplines as these big things because these things that you know them. You can't be here and you don't know that reading the Bible is crucial for a Christian. It is not possible. The problem is the discipline. It's the enforcement. You can't be here and you don't know that you need to pray. You know. But how do you enforce that? Because that's where the problem is. There are many things. So, cultivate a discipline of thinking. Thinking through things. Thinking about stuff. Thinking about the issues that you talk with people. Issues of simplicity. Simplicity is not necessarily purely just being a minimalist or being poor. It has to do with even our attitudes, how we interact with other people. Being overly concerned about even things that you don't know. During this season of electioneering period, there was a lot of fake news that was going on. Some of you defended some of those fake news as though you were actually the author. You were involved in what was happening. That is being a busybody, which is not an attribute of simplicity. Just being able to control your attitudes, your emotions. It is something that you decide and you are conscious about it and you begin practicing it. Every time you have an opportunity, you are practicing it, you are enforcing it. You are saying, this is not something that I need to do as a Christian worker. Sometimes you fall, sometimes you succeed. But if you are cultivating it as a habit, then you get to a point where you become successful as a ministry worker. You become a disciplined Christian worker. In my endeavors with people, I always, anytime I'm interacting with people, I have at the back of my mind a desire to leave that person better. And so I'm always asking, how can I help this person as we interact? How can I mentor this person as we interact? I have questions that, for example, I would ask to help me just find out whether there are some mentorship gaps in that person. But it's a habit that I have cultivated, something I've done over and over again. And you may think that it's my gifting, but it's not. It is just a habit that I have decided to cultivate as a ministry worker. So I want to present to you okay, there's no signal. All right. This is what I am talking about, a conceptualization of what I'm talking about, becoming a disciplined Christian worker. You need to begin by life goals. What is it that you want to become? We have said disciplines need to help you to form a particular character trait, or it's a skill you want to become an expert in, or it's even a behavior or something that you're struggling with and you want to work on. So that is the starting point. Then you may want to become an authoritative Bible expositor. That is what you want to become. You've admired John Piper, for example. You want to become like him. You need to find out, how did he become such a great Bible expositor? It can't be that he just woke up and realized, oh, I know how to do these things. There are things he's done to get to that point. You want to become an excellent trainer, a sacrificial giver, or you just want to look attractive. There are things that you need to do consistently. It could be that you just need to begin exercising. And so then you need to know some of the dynamics around those goals that you want to achieve. First of all, the motivation should be God. That we are doing all these things because we love God. And we are doing it for the glory of God. It is not just for a show off. When you present the gospel in a way that it's so clear and articulate, you're doing it so because you're doing it because of the love of God. Time management. You need to think about sleep. How many hours do you sleep? They say that averagely, a person should sleep for 7 hours. Can be 6 or 8. You're going to have a bed of your own. Some of you, this is the first time you're going to own a room by yourself. If you are going to cultivate some of these disciplines, you must know how you're going to get the discipline of sleep. There are two things here. You can be one who sleeps you sleep more than you're awake. That's a problem. That students are calling you in the evening to come for the fellowship, and then you're saying there's something that you want to, there's something that has come up, and it's just your bed that has come up. Or you could also be the kind of a person who is not sleeping. If you are not regularly sleeping, you're going to have a problem on the way. So the discipline of just sleeping adequately will influence how you cultivate the other disciplines. Then plan the activities that are going to help you get into that dream that you want to become. If whatever activity, whatever goal that you have, there will need to be. And STEM gives us you're going to be given a planner that will help you to achieve this. Then make your first attempt. If you are not physically fit, and one of your goals is to just become physically fit. If you're not physically fit, you're also not going to be very beneficial to the kingdom of God. You need to be physically fit. Physically fit is not necessarily becoming thin, because that's what sometimes people confuse. If you are a 1 GB, it's not necessarily that you are fit. If you want to know whether you are fit, today, are we going to have games today? But I'm sure we are going to have some games during the week. Just stretch your leg, and if you feel some unpleasant noise, just know that you are unfit. And so whether you are big or small, just know that you are unfit. So it could be that is what you want to do. Make your first attempt. You are going to have games during SOT. Don't say that, in my family, actually, no one has ever played. And so you cannot change. Make your first attempt. Make your first attempt. Then make it a routine. Make it a routine. Change the following day on Tuesday. Change again on Wednesday. Run. Run again on Thursday. Run again next week. Run again next month. Then this is what I'm calling the end attempts. Attempting what you want to do many times until it becomes a habit. And at the end of it, you're going to become a disciplined Christian worker. So you must start. So the starting point is today. The starting point is now. I have talked about many things that you can do. I've talked about a few disciplines that I've practiced myself. I've talked about other disciplines that have been practiced by other people. Maybe what you need to do now is to try to read about other people, other Christian workers, and see what kind of disciplines have they cultivated in their lives. Maybe you need to begin talking to people who look attractive and you want to be like them and find out what is it that they have done differently. So the starting point is now. You can just resolve that you're going to be a good time manager, that you're going to come here when the session is supposed to start. And it is as simple as that. Make your first attempt today, or if you are that kind of a person who never keeps time, make your first attempt today. Just decide, I'm going to show up for this meeting. I'm going to be in the hall on time. Try again next week. And make it a routine until it becomes a habit. And then you realize your impact is changing. So I pray that in the many stories that I've given, because I've given those stories for you to see, the impact that you see, it is because of what is done behind the scenes. It is the mundane things that are done repeatedly that they have helped the people to become perfect in their character, in their skills, and in the way they do their things. So discipline, orderly pattern of behavior, control that is gained by enforcing obedience. So think about obedience. Think about order. Think about patterns. And attempt some things for God. Attempt them. Fail and begin again. Try until they become part and parcel of you, that you no longer think about them. That like Daniel, when they say there's not going to be praying, it's like nothing will have been said to you. You will wake up, go pray in the same posture, at the same time, and in the same venue, regardless of what is happening around you. May the Lord bless you so much.
The Fellowship of Christian Unions, reaching students, changing nations.